And welcome back. In the previous video, we looked at the various data types that we have in Python. We spoke about the string, the characters, the integers, and then the floats. What we didn't mention is the boolean. We also have boolean data type. And basically this boolean takes two values, either true or false. So booleans can either be true, or which is also represented by 1, or false, or false, which is also either represented by 0. So either true or false. Boolean just take two possible values, true or false. Basically, this is the other data type that we have. So we have booleans, we have floats, and then we have integers, and we have characters or strings. Now in this video, we are going to focus more on variables, so variable declaration. So you could see that here there wasn't really anything we could just do with these data types. We saw that all we could do was print the type of the data type, or print the data type as well, as in show it to the screen for us to see. What if we want to actually do something serious with it? So let's create a file. So I'm going to create a file touch. Then I call this 4-point variables declaration, but then I'll just keep variables.py. When you add the .py extension, bear in mind that it's just to help the editor know that it's a Python file and then load the Python extensions that you need to work with this file. So now variables are basically quantities or objects that are used to represent varying quantities. So basically, if you have a value, right, that may be changing in your code or your function or your equation, that value doesn't have a fixed value, right? Then what you do is that we represent such quantities with variables, which means that at any point in your program or your function or your equation, the value of that specific quantity may change, right? So basically, a variable in Python or in any programming language is just used to hold a data type temporarily during the running of the program. If your programming language is smart enough to do garbage collection to clean up the memory and all these things, then once the program is done running, that variable space or that variable that is being stored may be used by something else. Else, you would have to clear the memory that the variable occupies. So basically, there are certain rules that we need to obey for declaring variables. So variable declaration. So the first rule is that the variable name should never start with a number. Variable name. So now we will no longer use numbers. Variable names should not start with either integers or floats. With int or floats, right? And then the next rule is that variable names should not contain spaces. So no spaces in variable names. And then the third one is that once you have variable names, your variable names should make sense. They should be short and precise, and they should make sense. Try as much as possible to avoid single letters variable names. The situation or when you would use them, then make sure you comment or you write the meaning of these single letters. Else, you would wake up some days later or some months later and you will not make sense of your variable names, right? Single letter variable names, var names. Okay. And then another one is that there should be no use of special characters, except underscore. So underscore is the only way, it is the only special character you can use in your variable name, underscore. And mostly we use underscore when you think your variable names will have to will need a space in between them, right? So you use underscore to make it feel like there's a space between them. But then aside underscore, no other special character, the star, the percentage, the ampersand, the dollar, any of these things are not acceptable in a variable name, right? Minus, plus, and all these things are not accepted in a variable name. So basically, this is it. The variable name can be anything. You can use name or anything to represent a variable name, right? And in Python, to declare a variable, all you have to do is just write the variable name you're interested in. Make sure you respect or you obey all these rules, and then you are good to go. So you write the name of the variable, and then you bring the assignment operator. The assignment operator is this equal to sign you can see here. Let me close this. Is this equal to sign you can see here, right? It says that this variable name is being assigned to something, or a certain value would be assigned to this variable name, right? Now, this variable is called name. Okay, so let me just change this to var1, and then the var1 contains what? Let's say 2.5 or 2.4. var2 holds what? Let's say 2 or 5 or 6. And then this should be var2. And then var3 holds what? Maybe the string Kofi or the goats. Okay. So here you would see that now we have var1 representing or taking a value of 2.4. So which means that 2.4 has been assigned to a variable named var1. What is actually happening in the system is that a space is created in memory, right, for this value to be stored here, right? So it means that there's a space currently created in memory to store this variable. What happens in Python is that Python is able to detect, right, the type of value that a variable is occupying and then creates its corresponding space in memory for it. Unlike C and the others where you would have to statically type or say that this variable would contain an integer, this will hold what? A variable. So if you can see from the suggestion, you can see that it says it's a variable var1 and then it's holding a float. If you come to this one, it says it's a variable var2 and it's holding a literal, which is more or less like an integer. And then this is a variable var3 and it's holding a literal, which is like the goods, that's a string. So if you want to determine, actually, you want to see the type of value the variable is, you can just say type var1 to print the type of var1, right? And then when I save, do Ctrl S to save, and then I run Python, and then the name of the file, I see that what float is written here. If I should change var1 to 2, and I save, if I run it, I'll see what integer here. If I change it to 3, and I save, and I run it, we see what? A string here, which means that these variables are, or these values have been assigned to these variables. Know that the variables are holding these values in memory, which means that if I come down here and say var1 is equal to scientific computing or iLife Python, then now this time around, if I print var1, let's see what happens. If I print the type of var1, let's see what happens. It says that the var1 is what? A string, which means that this program, when we run this program, when we say run Python 3, run this file for us, it runs the code from top to bottom, line by line. So when it got here, it assigned 2.4 to var1, right? When it got here, it assigned 6 to var2. But then when it got to the down, it overrides, right? So this variable creates a specific space in memory which is willing to hold a data that you bring it. But then when it gets here, it overrides this data that you create on top with this particular one here. So it tells you that the var1 is a string. So which means that you can keep reusing other variables or overwriting the data in certain variables while you move forward. So you don't have to declare a lot of variables in your program. So if you think that you just need to use a variable once or multiple times, but then want to continue in use a different value for that same variable, you can still assign that variable to different things, right? Also, Python allows us to do multiple variable assignment. So I can do name, comma, age, comma, let's say name, comma, age, comma, pay, I guess. So this is equal to the string setDem, comma, and then the age would be 25, comma, and then the pay would be 559, right? So when I do Control S to save, what happens is that this name will be assigned to this one here, the age will be assigned to this value here, but bear in mind that this one will be regarded as a string since I placed it inside a quote. So let me remove the quote so that the age will be a number and then I put dots, maybe 00 here, so that this will be regarded as a string. So if I print type of let's say name, and I save this, then I rerun the script. Let me clear the terminal for you to see. And I rerun the script down here. What I see is I'm told that the name is a string, right? Okay, but then if I change this to copy paste, I change this to age, we are told that it's an integer. Bear in mind that it's because we are using this type. If you want to print them, then you can just do print age, print this. So if you do S, then now you have setDem and then you have 25. Look at this. Now you see that after assigning variables to the data types that we have, we don't have to enclose these variable names in a quotation in order to make Python print it. So the variable becomes a Python object, right? Or not necessarily objects, as in technically objects, but then it becomes something that Python actually recognizes, right? If we should attempt printing any other thing without, so if I say print, I say height or length, right? If I do this, we should expect an error. It says that print length, right? It says name error. Name length is not defined, which means that Python doesn't understand what this length is, right? So if you want to print a character or a string length, then you should enclose this in quotations. But then if you want to print a variable length, then you have to declare that you are using length, the name length, as a variable. So basically this is it. This is how we declare variables and then use them in Python. In the next video, we would look at how to actually maybe use these variables and do something more fun with it. Once again, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Share with your friends so that you could also learn from this video. And then, as always, we can't wait to see you in the next one. Thank you.